Hello, friends, and welcome back to Scaling Stories. Today, I've got some more highly upvoted posts from Best of Redditor updates for y'all. Like always, I'll be reading you the posts and giving you my opinions, and I'll also be working on building up my Minecraft world at the same time, so I hope you enjoy. Also, I'm currently only in Spotify's creator program, so watching on there would help me out a ton. Thank you so much for your support. Today's first story comes from the Relationship Advice subreddit. It was posted by pikkaapii on August 17th, 2023, and was titled, My Ex-Best Friend, 25 female, of 10 years, wants me, 25 female, to forgive her for sleeping with my exes. So my ex-best friend, let's call her Andrea, was my best friend for 10 years. We were at a party, and I brought my fiancé of a year with us. We were about 5 to 8 drinks in, and everyone was feeling it. I went off to go talk to another friend while Andrea and my fiancé sat at a table on the outside deck. I went back about 15 minutes later, and my fiancé told me he needed to talk to me discreetly after she got up and walked away. He told me she asked him, "Why her? Why does everyone always go for her? Why does no one go for me?" And then proceeded to say, "Would you ever date me?" Now, in the moment, I don't know if I fully believed him. About a year later, I had been broken up with my fiancé for about 3 months. I started hooking up with another guy I had known. We will call him Colby. One night, I threw a party and it got kind of crazy. I was not feeling well and was in the bathroom. While I was in the bathroom, Andrea was all over Colby. Someone had told me later that night. And as I was on Snapchat posting stuff, she took a picture with Colby and was basically on top of him and sticking her tongue out. She sent it to me while I was on my phone. I didn't really think much of it. 2 weeks later, a mutual friend said Andrea was sleeping with Colby and that she slept with another ex of mine after we had broken up. I messaged her and asked her, "Are you sleeping with Colby? And did you sleep with other ex?" She played it off like she had no idea what they were talking about and said she would never do that to me. I asked, "Are you sure? If you like him, just be honest so I can stop wasting my time on Colby." And then she started gaslighting me and asking why I would believe our mutual friend. I didn't push it after that because I didn't want to start a fight with her. One night, I looked at Snap Map and it showed Colby and Andrea in the same location, and I knew it in my gut. I expected it from a guy, but not from my best friend. I asked again, and she blew up and finally admitted it after gaslighting me for 3 weeks. Then, she tried to make me out to be the bad guy and said, "You always make everything about you. And you guys weren't even in a real relationship," and a bunch of other crappy things. I got into a relationship with Tyler, and a few weeks later, I stupidly forgave her. 7 months later, Tyler and I took a break. We all attended a party together, and I saw her flirting with him, and flashbacks of Colby came back. And, long story short, we fought again and didn't talk for a very long time. A year later, I had moved out of state, and she was in a relationship with Tyler and was pregnant with his child. I now knew all of my feelings were right. I mean, her last 3 relationships were all with my exes. Another year later, she said she missed me and was sad I moved out of state and didn't apologize for anything. I told her I don't hold grudges, but I don't think I can ever fully be friends with her again. Scaling Stories Corner. Yo, hold up real quick, because I feel like OP passed by her interaction with her fiancé like super quickly. This is your fiancé, right? The person that you were going to marry? As in they were both engaged to each other? This man pulled her to the side after a night out and told her that her best friend was saying some really crazy negative self-talk about herself and also made some subtle jabs at OP herself with the, "Why her? Why does everyone like her and not me?" And OP's reaction was just like, I don't know if I can fully believe my fiancé. It was just like, huh? What kind of relationship is this if you can't take your significant other's words for what they are? That was just a little bit crazy to me, but whatever. We can move past it and talk about the ex-best friend situation. And that is hell to the nah. Like, F that. I'm holding grudges, and I'll never be a friend to that type of person ever again. Like, what do you mean this girl slept with literally your last 3 exes, and your reaction isn't telling this snake to go screw herself? Because, like, dude, she lied to OP when she was hooking up with Colby and gaslit the crap out of her. And then, what do you mean you forgave her after that? Like, how? Like, did she sell you a life-changing amount of money to be your friend again? because this girl would have been blocked on everything after that, and I would have been telling all our mutual friends what a snake she is. Now, here are some of the top/relevant comments from the original post. Commenter 1 says, she hasn't apologized for anything, so it does not read like she wants forgiveness from you. OP says, very true. The fact she hasn't apologized shows she doesn't feel bad like she should. Commenter 2 says, you have so many broken relationships. Maybe you should work on yourself and not worry about exes. OP says, it's not worrying about exes. If you read anything into this, the takeaway is that she was my best friend for a decade, and that's hard crap to get over. This was in a span of quite a few years. I am now in a happy relationship, and I am engaged to be married. She recently crawled out of her hole to try and get back into my life. I think you should really pay attention to the full story. One of them wasn't even a relationship, and I stated that I just really started to like the guy. I don't think 2 relationships in 4 years is crazy. Lol. Commenter 3 says, how did she become your best friend? It seems that you know each other because you meet often, which may or may not be a coincidence. But, otherwise, she wants a certain reaction. Maybe she wants you to envy her as she envies you, or just to hurt you. She doesn't care about your friendship, only about appearances. Life is too short to waste your time on the wrong people. OP says, we met in middle school and became friends through a mutual friend. We were best friends ever since, and we lived together through the first incident. Commenter 4 says, I wouldn't be so bothered by someone getting with an ex, so long as whatever developed between them started after the relationship was over. In at least one of the cases, that just isn't true. And in the other cases, she at least tried to get with them while you were still together. She's a snake. OP says, all I wanted from her was communication. Just be like, hey, I think I really like him and don't know what to do. I would have worked it out and been like, hey, you know what? Go for it. But she gaslit me and lied, so it just ruined everything. Not even an apology either. Commenter 5 says, not the jerk, but I gotta ask. Did she seem competitive with you or jealous of other things in your life? Did she ever try imitating you or your life? Because this is straight up weird. She went out of her way to get your exes multiple times. It just reeks of envy or jealousy to me. But no, she burned that bridge long ago. You don't have to forgive toxic people. OP says, actually, yes. I'm so glad someone asked that. I don't want to seem full of myself, but everything I had, she had to have. I got sparrows tattooed on my chest. She did the same thing. I got a skull and roses on my forearm. She, of course, had to do the same. Nose piercing? You guessed it, she got it too. Dyed my hair red? Yup. Everything I did, she mimicked. I was always told imitation is a form of flattery, but it gets to a point where it's weird. She would get mad that I would get the attention at the bars, even if I wasn't entertaining it. But I knew how self-conscious she was and felt bad, so I never said anything. She was my closest friend. Now, I see so much more. Commenter 6 says, yikes, not the jerk. Maybe she's only in contact because she needs a new boyfriend. OP says, ha, that one got a good laugh out of me. Thank you, I needed that. It's really a tough situation for me because we were attached at the hip. I haven't made any new friends since, so it's hard to say no, but I'm going to hold myself to my standards. OP comments, I'm too nice and oblivious, but not anymore. Don't worry, after many commenters said the same thing, I'm glad to know I'm not a bad person. I think we're all in agreement here. Commenter 7 says, that oblivious part is so obvious. Your damned fiancé told you what she was doing, and you ignored him. She showed you what she was doing, and you ignored her too. How many friends told you what she was doing? Ignored them too, but now you're mad? I guess if you walked in on them, she would have said he slipped? There's trusting, and then there's being willfully blind. You still act like you could trust her again at some point after she stabbed you in the gooch at least 3 times. OP says, okay, you obviously don't read very well. Yes, I didn't take action on something my boyfriend said because we were all drunk and I had no proof. The second person told me, and I did act on it. I asked her about it. I can't do anything without knowing the truth. I'm not just gonna jump to conclusions. And I already cut her off. Everyone's acting like I'm talking to her, Lamau. I was just trying to make sure I'm doing the right thing by telling her no, and y'all just eat it up and read way too much into it. No one said I was going to trust her again. OP adds an edit to her post. I have blocked and removed her on everything. Should have done so sooner, but what's done is done. And I've learned my lesson. Update 2 years, 10 months later. Hey everyone. I randomly came back across this post after not thinking about it for a long time and figured I'd give a real update since a lot has changed. It's been over 3 years since everything went down with Andrea, Colby, and Tyler. After I made my original update, I fully stuck to cutting Andrea off, and I've kept her blocked/no contact ever since. That was honestly one of the best decisions I made for my peace of mind. So, the actual update on the situation. Andrea ended up staying with Tyler for about a year, and as I told you all before, they had a baby together. That relationship eventually fell apart after Tyler cheated on her, and shortly after their breakup, he even tried reaching out to me again, which I obviously didn't entertain. After all of that, Andrea is now with Colby. Yes, the same Colby from my original post. So, basically, she ended up in long-term situations with both of the main people involved in all of this. As for me, I stayed in the relationship I moved out of state for. We've now been together for years, and things are amazing. We're building a life together, both settled into careers, and we've been talking seriously about the future. Trying for a baby, yay. Looking back, I don't really feel anger about it anymore. It was painful at the time, but it also made it very clear who I could and couldn't trust. Mostly, I just feel far removed from who I was when I wrote the original post. I was constantly trying to make sense of people who weren't treating me with basic respect, and I don't live in that space anymore. What do you think? Did I make the right decision all those years ago? I think I did. If anyone remembers this from years ago, thanks for reading back then and giving advice, and thanks again now. Scaling Stories Corner. I think OP made the right decision all those years ago about cutting off her ex-best friend. But I think she should have done so sooner the first time she caught her initially hooking up with Colby and then lying about it and gaslighting the crap out of her. I definitely would have just never forgiven her for that. But besides that, it's great that she moved out of state and got out of there. Because what an absolute dumpster fire that's going on between Andrea, Tyler, and Colby. Like, just wow, that is an incredibly messy situation. Now here are some of the top/relevant comments from the update post. Commenter 1 says, good for you. Just don't introduce him to Andrea. Just kidding. OP says, got that right. LOL. Commenter 2 says, I'm confused about your timeline in the original post. Was Tyler the fiance with whom you initially took a 3-month break? OP says, no, different guy. They never dated. He was just my fiance whom she tried hitting on at a party. Commenter 3 says, don't try for a baby. Try for a marriage first. OP says, we are getting married at the beginning of next year. Commenter 4 says, why did you and your first fiance break up? Just to provide some context to the story. OP says, we just grew apart and wanted different things. It was a mutual breakup, smiley face. Commenter 5 says, you must recognize that your first ex-fiance, soon after receiving an advance from your fake ex-friend, was the first to warn you. At least one of the exes was sincere, apparently. Good luck with the future pregnancy. OP says, yes, he was a good guy. Glad he told me. Okay, friends, so that concludes our first story of the day. Next up, we have a story from the Two Hot Takes subreddit. It was posted by oddgoodnews on June 5th, 2026, and was titled, My husband wants to get a Japanese tattoo that I am against. My husband, 26 male, and I, 27 female, come from different cultural backgrounds. He is Central Asian, and I am Korean. We are also both pretty heavily tattooed, and he has been wanting to get a large tattoo on his back for quite a while now. He has been going back and forth between a floral Asian-style design with a koi fish and a tiger. Mind you, he already has 2 Asian-style sleeves, one on each arm, both mostly ornamental. Yesterday, he said he finally made his decision on the design and sent me a sketch of a huge Japanese hanya/oni that would cover his entire back, full of solid black coloring and just very intense looking. If you've never heard of these before, they are pretty scary looking masks depicting demons from Japanese folklore, especially the hanya mask, which is the demon of a jealous or obsessed wife who was wronged. Being of Korean background, it made me feel weird, considering the historical background of the two countries. I understand that his other tattoos are also Asian, but this one stood out to me since it was so aggressive and symbolic of Japanese culture. I asked him what it meant to him, and he just said that he had been fascinated with Japanese culture ever since he was a kid. He always loved samurai, anime, Japanese music, food, you get it. His favorite video game is also Japanese, about samurai. I understand being interested in foreign cultures, but I think it's pretty extreme to get such a huge tattoo of something so cultural on your back. I also told him I can't help but separate Japan's political history from its symbols, like this mask, because I've grown up hearing stories of Japanese colonization, have taken multiple classes on the subject, and can still see how people are affected by it all. I asked him if he could please reconsider the tattoo and said that I would have no problem with him getting a generalized Asian tattoo, but this one is making me feel a certain way. I also asked him if he was aware of Japan's imperialism, to which he replied no. Please tell me if I'm being too sensitive, or if this is something I have the right to ask him not to do. I have always been a supporter of free self-expression and have always supported his ideas. He would sometimes ask me not to do certain things to my appearance, such as not getting any more piercings. I only have my ears and my eyebrow pierced, and I would respect his words. And now, this is the only time I have ever asked him not to do something and to reconsider, but he isn't budging, saying he's going to get the tattoo and the decision is final. He says he's getting it because it's art and because the mask carries a meaning of bravery, resilience, and protection. I'm just mostly upset that he is ignoring my opinion completely. If anyone could please offer any advice, I would appreciate it. Scaling Stories Corner. What do I think? I don't think that anything is wrong with the tattoo necessarily. I don't know exactly what the design OP's husband had in mind, but I think I've seen the Hanya Oni thing a lot of times on Ink Master. And if you don't know, Ink Master is like a show where people compete to see who's like a better tattoo artist, and there's like judges and stuff. And it's because I watch Survivor a lot, like the reality TV show, and Ink Master is like the tattoo survivor, if that makes sense. It does make sense if you've seen the shows. But yeah, I've seen a lot of people have those tattoos, and they look they're all right. Definitely, they were huge on people's backs, and like they covered the whole thing. It actually looked crazy. But also, I've never heard of anyone bringing up the Japan colonization thing, so that's definitely news to me. But I guess at that point, is like any tattoo about Japan off the table then? Like if it was like a big samurai looking dude or something, would that also be a no-go? Yeah, I'm not sure. But personally, if I was OP's husband and I was getting a full back tattoo, I would want the tattoo to be something I really wanted. And it does seem like he really does want this one. And also, I think OP's husband was wrong, by the way, for telling OP that she can't get more piercings if she wanted more. Because that's her body, right? And she should be free to do what she wants. And if the husband is saying that the tattoo represents like bravery, resilience, and whatever, then additional piercings can also mean like X, Y, and Z, you know? Now, here are some of the top/relevant comments from the original post. Commenter 1 says, "You're entitled to your feelings, exactly as he is entitled to make decisions for his own body. You can ask him not to do something that bothers you, but you have to be prepared for him to decide he wants to do it anyway, and then decide if that's a deal breaker. Ultimately, you cannot force another person to do what you want. You can only share your feelings and then reconcile your own feelings about their reaction to your feelings." Commenter 2 says, "If you're looking for nuanced answers that respect your deep cultural discomfort with Japanese symbology, you might be posting in the wrong sub. You're each entitled to your feelings, and his body is his choice. But his choice will be corrosive to your relationship if it causes deep discomfort every time he takes his shirt off and makes you remember he didn't care about your feelings. TLDR, a giant symbol on his back of his disrespect for you doesn't sound healthy for the marriage long term." Commenter 3 says, "Disclaimer, I'm not Asian, but I have lived and worked in Asia for over a decade, and I genuinely think people here don't understand this issue. Japan still perpetrates..." What? What did I just say? "Japan still perpetrates that they did nothing wrong and refuses to acknowledge comfort women, amongst other atrocities. It's similar-ish to getting a strongly German symbol if Germany never admitted they did anything wrong to this day and your partner was Jewish and telling them to get over it. Not to say that anything Japanese is bad. I have a Japanese dragon tattoo myself, but that there are still a lot of recent issues and resentments that are around. Like people have said, it's his body, but also I would find it hard when there are a million different tattoos for him to deliberately ignore how uncomfortable and potentially hurtful this would be to you on a daily basis. Edit to add, wrote this comment before bed, so maybe I did not explain the analogy that well. I think it would be more something like if a white person in the US got a tattoo of a giant cotton bud on their back while also dating a black person. Nothing wrong with cotton, the imagery is used everywhere, but there are also connotations that would make that uncomfortable. Also, again, I don't think a lot of people realize how recent it all still is here. While most people aren't going to be a dick to a Japanese person, I know many people who enjoy anime and Japanese culture and will wear anime shirts, etc. I've also met many people who have expressed anti-Japan sentiments because of the history and the current refusal of the government to acknowledge past wrongdoings. Update 2 days later. I'm not entirely sure if I'm doing this correctly since I've never done an update post. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong about posting it like this. First of all, I want to express deep gratitude towards people who have been supportive, kind, and have given great advice. Sometimes it's really nice to get confirmation that you're not being completely insane. And even if you thought that I was being sensitive, thank you anyway. All opinions were appreciated. I'll answer a few of the frequently asked questions and comments here. My husband is not Japanese. He was born and raised in Central Asia. Central Asia includes countries like Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, and Turkmenistan. All amazing and beautiful countries. I think some people got confused about that part and somehow came to the conclusion that my husband is from Japan. I can now see that I might have posted in the wrong sub, like a few commenters pointed out. A lot of people seemed completely unaware of the history between South Korea and Japan. A few people asked if I just have a problem with the Hanya specifically or with Japanese tattoos in general. Like I said in my original post, a more neutral, generally Asian-style tattoo would be okay. I just think getting an aggressive female demon mask across your entire back is very extreme. Honestly, I think getting such a huge tattoo tied to a culture you're not a part of and know very little about is cringe. Tattoos from different cultures can be fine as long as you're educated about the context and connotations. Also, I'm aware that the Hanya symbol predates more recent imperialism. To the people saying bodily autonomy should be respected at any cost, I partially agree. But I think marriage makes things more complicated than that. My husband and I don't police what the other wears or things like haircuts. He has asked me before not to get more piercings, and this time I asked him to reconsider the tattoo. I think partners have the right to make those requests, and the other person can choose whether to accept or reject them. Of course, compromise is the best option. I do not think that eating a certain culture's food and getting something permanent on your body that comes from the culture are the same thing at all. Now to the update. Yesterday, when my husband and I first spoke about the tattoo, it ended up escalating to him getting really defensive and angry. The next time we spoke about it was today in the morning. He apologized for getting so defensive and told me he won't be getting the tattoo. He said that our marriage and I, his wife, are obviously more important to him than any tattoo. He said that when I first told him that I would be uncomfortable with it, he didn't think that I was being completely serious. After talking about it more, he realized how important it is to me and apologized for being insensitive. He told me he watched a few videos on the topic of Japanese imperialism and was surprised because he had no idea about the extent of their actions. He said he apparently knew that they colonized Korea, but assumed it was just like any other colonization. At this point, I think he might just be dumb and generally uneducated on world history. I will definitely ask him to read more about it, and maybe we can watch something educational together. Instead of the Hanya, he returned to his previous tattoo ideas of carps or tigers, which are symbolic in many Asian cultures in general and are much more peaceful in their meaning. I asked him to still do deeper research into these symbols. I will not be divorcing him over this, like some commenters suggested. I'm not sure if I would immediately divorce him if he followed through with the tattoo, but it would definitely make me rethink our relationship. Not gonna lie, our morning talk still left me with a tiny bit of a weird aftertaste. At the end of the day, you live and you learn. Scaling Stories Corner. Okay. So I will say that I don't really have that much knowledge about tattoo origins and history and stuff like that. I mean, I don't even have a tattoo. So I was super surprised when I saw someone compare it to someone getting the cotton tattoo and compared it to if you were like dating a black person. And I was like, wow, I didn't know the demon mask tattoo was like that for Japan. So I feel like I learned a bit from this post. So that's good. And also, what OP said makes a lot of sense, and I agree. In a marriage, it should definitely be a discussion between both people regarding things like a giant back tattoo or additional piercings and other things. Even though people's bodies are their own, the other person is your significant other, and how they feel matters as well. And what is important is that a proper conversation is had. And if someone disagrees with something, they bring reasonable points to the table and discuss it, hopefully like peacefully. And hopefully both parties can reach a middle ground. And it's funny because I was having the thought that like it's not right to do something big without telling your partner. Like if I was married, I thought, what if I randomly decided without telling anyone to like dye half my hair red, half my hair blue? Like that would be super crazy and wild. And I feel like that would make my significant other feel bad because they didn't even have a chance to talk to me about it. And yeah, so that's what that made me think about. Now, here are some of the top/relevant comments from the update post. Commenter 1 says, just like any other colonization is a strange statement, yeah? By definition, colonization is violent and brutal. Not sure what he meant by that, and I don't want to find out. Sheesh. Commenter 2 says, I will not be divorcing him over this, like some commenters suggested. That's Reddit for ya. Instead of the Hanya, he returned to his previous tattoo ideas of carps or tigers. The tiger idea is pretty neat because if you look at the map of tigers' historic range, every Central Asian country at some point had tigers within its current day borders. So there's a connection there too. Okay friends, so that concludes today's video. Leave a like and comment down below to let me know what you thought of it, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Take care.